same issue. Next, why is capitalism now struggling between tariffs, trade wars, and all of that? This is a very important issue which is now going to become well known. It's been a bit below the surface for a while, but it will now emerge. Capitalism has always had this kind of problem. On the one hand, in every capitalist economy, like the United States, there are businesses that want free trade. They want the world to be open so that they can produce whatever they want to produce over here, where it's cheapest to produce it, ship it over there to store it, and then move it over there to sell it. They want freedom to move and get the best price for their inputs and the best price for their outputs. It's like General Motors that wants to produce cars in China for the Chinese market. It's Pepsi-Cola, which makes more profit from the soda pop it produces outside the United States than what it does inside, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those companies want free trade. But then there are a whole other bunch of companies that don't want it. Why? Because they suffer from the ability of other countries to produce stuff more profitably and bring it here. They want, ready? Protection. That's what it's called. Protection economics. They want a barrier, a tariff. Let me give you an example. Sometime over the next 3 or 4 days, the United States and France will reach an agreement, or not, about the tariffs Mr. Trump wants to impose. By the way, for some of you, this may be an important piece of information on French cheese and French wine and French brandy and all the rest of it. Why? Well, it's part of Mr. Trump's demonstration that he's tough and not letting the French people cheat us, and all of that boring rhetoric. But here's the people who like this. Napa Valley. Because if there's a tariff of 25% on French wine, that's the price. When you go to the liquor store, the French wine section of the liquor store, those prices are going to go up because that liquor store has to pay part of the cost of this tariff. The wines from Napa don't go up there. They're not subject to the tariff. So this is a way of shifting the business from the French wine or the Italian wine or the Australian wine or wherever the tariffs are hit to the American alternative. It gets even more complicated because if you do it to the French but you don't do it to the Italians, well then it hurts France. Its exports to America drop, but the Italians don't mind because they're exempted from it. So now we get an immense amount, ready, of political horse trading. Everybody is fighting to have a tariff or to not have a tariff. If a tariff is passed, to get an exemption from the tariff. It's an endless process of stuff. That's all this is. Don't be fooled by endless claims, tariffs will help America. That is, I'm going to use a technical term in economics, bullshit. Okay? What it is, it hurts certain capitalists if you raise a tariff. It hurts other capitalists if you lower. The ones who benefit from lowering want it lowered, and their lobbyists are busy in Washington and everywhere getting that. And the outcome depends on who's got more money to hire how many lobbyists to win. That's what the outcome is. It has nothing to do with efficiency, nothing to do with America. Nobody cares. It's irrelevant. This is a fight between two groups of capitalists. That's what it always was. But the winners and the losers will change the economic environment we live in. You can see an explosion of wine being produced in America if you block the wines from Europe, or you cannot. Or you cannot. Same thing with automobiles, because the tariffs, Mr. Trump is talking about putting tariffs on European automobiles coming here. Tariffs have already changed. Let me give you one example, just so you see. In 1963, long time ago, the United States imposed a tariff on European trucks, not cars, trucks, light trucks. It's a long story. It had to do with a fight over chicken produced in the United States that they wanted to sell in Europe. The Europeans would have none of it. They wouldn't allow the chickens. They still don't allow chickens. You all know about the chickens. In the United States, chickens are washed with chlorine. Every time you eat a piece of chicken, you are eating chlorine. In America, that is thought of as very sanitary. The Europeans look upon that as barbaric. So they don't allow the chicken, right? Which is one of the reasons we have so much chicken and it's so cheap, because we can't give that crap away. Okay? In retaliation, this is the truth, I didn't make this stuff up. You couldn't, I haven't imagination. In retaliation for the Europeans on chicken, just to give you an idea of how this works, the United States put a tariff on light trucks. Suddenly, at 25%, a big one. So suddenly, the American car producers, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, faced a new situation. This was delicious. They now could produce trucks which before they couldn't give away because the Europeans were producing better trucks at a lower price. Now the Europeans were screwed because even though they produced, let's say, a truck at 10% less, with a 25% tariff, they were now more expensive even though they were more efficient. Notice, efficiency counted for nothing. Only in the minds of economists is efficiency a very important matter. But in the real world, it's as important as the number of pennies that fell into your shoe on the way over here. You don't care. So what did General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler do? They said, we can make more money on the pickup truck, the light truck, than we can on cars, which means we are now going to persuade the American people that the manly thing is to have a truck. You're not a real, the women they gave up on. The women in those days didn't buy trucks, didn't buy cars. That was a man thing to do. So you went after the men and you had an image, remember in the magazine, of a very tough guy with boots and he was climbing into his truck. Americans buy an ungodly number of these absurdly useless trucks. Why? Because we love the truck. Oh, come on, don't be naive. You had to be taught that there's something, ready? It's not easy, that there's something sexy about a truck. You realize how impoverished your sexuality has to be to get you going on a truck? Think about it. We produced a culture of the truck, of the pickup truck, as a somehow, people have to have it. People have nothing, who never take anything anywhere. And what they do take could fit in the trunk of a regular sedan, but they have to have a truck. They don't feel like they're a full male without a truck. That's not a product of some peculiarity of American culture or some peculiarity of masculinity. That's a product of a tariff. That's how tariffs shape a society. We are obsessed with trucks for no other reason than that we have imposed, by the way, we've imposed that. The same General Motors who doesn't want Trump to put tariffs now because the Chinese will retaliate and block them from getting into China, don't want anyone to touch the 25% tariff on trucks that they have profited from for the last half century. The lying, the duplicity, the fakery, it's as thick as any milkshake you ever had. Okay? Don't be fooled. This issue of tariffs and trade war is a fight between two kinds of enterprises. Yes, it's also a game for politicians because politicians know that if they start talking, like Mr. Trump, if they start talking about tariffs, they're going to get very big donations from whoever wants the tariff to go up and whoever wants it to go down. They will collect and then make their excuses. Oh, I was hoping to get it down. I really appreciate the $400 million you gave me, but I couldn't get it done because of Mitch McConnell. Make something up. But it's a good ploy for politicians to get donations for what otherwise. It has nothing to do with anything to do with efficiency or anything else. It's not about national interest. It's a fight between two groups of capitalists, and they have to line us up in order to get the votes in Congress for what they want. So they appeal to the public by telling us fake stories about how we should be interested in whether the tariff is high or low.